last night, I went to the movie, and once again, I took my friend Jesse with me because Jesse is always carrying a concealed weapon. But that's not why I did it. I did it because he's my friend. But, I've talked about him a little bit on the show over the last week, that I feel safer traveling while Jesse's in the vehicle next to me or at the movie theaters or what have you, knowing that he is trained and carries a weapon. But anyways, also I took my sons. I took my son and his friend with him because this Obama 2016 movie, I had read about it, and I really wanted the boys to understand the background on this president. So after seeing this movie, I was so touched by it. We got in touch with the director and the author of the book that was behind the movie, and we have him on the show today. And so joining us now, and this will be his first time on the show, is Dinesh D'Souza. And I want to welcome you to the George Jarkesy Show.
Hey, it's good to be on the show.
I got to tell you, I really enjoyed the movie. It wasn't, your way of doing things is really professorial, right? You covered the details to my satisfaction. You went, you dug down and then you dug deeper, and then you had a way of explaining things that really got the point across. When we left the movie theater last night, my boys reiterated things about the movie that they learned, things they learned about Obama and his history, things they learned about his policies, and I was amazed at how much you were able to get across to my boys and to me about the movie Obama 2016.
Well, in some ways I was inspired to make this film because I remembered that Michael Moore had made his film Fahrenheit 9/11 in 2004, and he dropped it right into the middle of the 2004 election debate. But, of course, Michael Moore's film was a very sloppy film, fast and loose with the facts, not really reliable.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't like that. I don't like that comparison at all. I watched that film. John Ellis was a partner of mine, and they talked about him in that film, which wasn't true at all, very negative. You saw them bully guests, sneak attack people, clip their information. I mean, comparing your movie, which was, factual, informative, insightful, and you weren't clipping people. You weren't playing part of what the guy said. You got it full in context. I don't like the comparison at all. I'm sorry.
Well, no. In fact, I even wanted to say that although I remember the impact of that film in 2004, I wanted to make a very different kind of film, a film that was reliable, a film that was rooted in fact, a film that would be fair even to Obama. It's a film that would follow Obama's story. And I think what makes the film powerful is just the fact that the media hasn't covered Obama. They've left large aspects of his life, his ideology, his beliefs unexamined. So when the film raises the curtain on all that, people are kind of amazed because no one's ever told them this stuff before.
Well, I'm amazed, even me, who studies every day, reads everything. I go to the various events, that around the country. I have the best guests on in the country. I mean, I've had Joe Arpaio on, who's, in the birthers. I've had David Webb on with the Tea Party and their outlook on it. I've had senators, I've had congressmen talk about Obama, but nobody unfolded and pulled back the curtain on what makes Obama tick as you did in this film. And I think it's so true that Americans, and including me, I didn't fully understand. I had wondered, I'd wondered so many things about his background and what made him tick that your movie actually clarified for me. We've had David Limbaugh on here in the last week. And so many programs, socialist things that I thought were socialism or communism, or other things tactics that you've seen from different groups, political groups over the last 100 years that I thought he was using. The driver on a lot of those that I learned from your movie was not what I thought.
Well, I think I have a slight advantage, and it's purely accidental, and that is I'm an immigrant. I grew up in India, so I'm the product of growing up in a different country, and I tend to see the world in a way globally, right, through in foreign eyes, and yet I've been in America since the age of 17, so I'm also seeing things from the inside. Well, Obama's exactly like that. He's born in America, yes, but he grew up in Indonesia. He's made multiple trips to Pakistan, to Kenya. So he too has this almost, you can say, dual vision in which he sees America from the inside and the outside. So I think that helped me get a perspective on the guy. And while most people are trying to fit Obama into American history, I said, no, let's just follow Obama's own history.
You know, it's so true. In my business dealings around the world, as I've moved around the world, I have seen that there are people that are American businessmen that they know everything there is, but get them out offshore and they're very uncomfortable. But I've seen businessmen in China that are comfortable worldwide, or businessmen from Europe that are comfortable in multiple jurisdictions, and they've kind of got that more global vision, as opposed to a lot of my American business friends who have an American vision, and that's I really opened my eyes about that thing. Now, one thing you brought up in the movie that I thought was interesting was, and really not, unless you see the movie or unless you read the book, the Obama's autobiography, Dreams from My Father, you didn't really understand just how important Barack Obama's father was to the president.
Yeah, a lot of guys missed that, and even some conservatives have missed it because they know that Obama's father was an absentee father. The two of them only spent a month together in person, even though they corresponded for many years. And so the general idea was, hey, Dinesh, how can you say his father influenced him so much because he didn't really know the guy very well? But the weirdness is that many times people become obsessed with an absentee father, and Obama details in his book how he went to search for his father. He built up this mythic image of the father. When that image came crashing down, he had to go to Africa himself to find out what his father was really like. And most importantly, we find when we talk in the film to people who are related to Obama, knew his father, knew his mother, they find eerie similarities between Obama and his father. I mean, for example, small detail, Obama's father was a chain smoker. Notice that President Obama smokes. The father was an impeccable dresser and spoke with a sort of perfected accent. Notice how beautifully Obama dresses and speaks. So there are similarities between the two men, and it's not just because it's genetics. Obama has consciously sought to become a man that is similar to his father.
Well, we got to go to break, but one thing to reiterate what you're saying, the grandmother, Obama's grandmother, Sarah Obama, told Newsweek, she said, I look at him and I see all the same things. He has taken everything from his father. This son is realizing everything the father wanted. So we've got with us Dinesh D'Souza, the director of Obama 2016. When we get back, he's going to tell you more about this great movie. Do not touch that dial. We'll be right back. I noticed that, it's not readily available around the country. What's the story with that? I mean, I just went to my local theater and saw it here in Houston, Texas, but
right.
but not everybody's able to see it, or what? How does that
work?
No,
but they will. They will. We are following. See, unlike Michael Moore, we don't have a major Hollywood studio behind us. We're an independent film, but we are releasing it in pieces. So the film is now available in Houston. It's playing in 4 theaters in Houston. This Friday, it goes into 4 new markets. It goes into Nashville. It goes into Anchorage, Alaska. The following weekend will be in Dallas and San Diego. And then by the end of August, we'll be in 700 or 800 theaters around the country. In other words, if you look at it, people's interest in politics begins to peak in August, September, and October in the months leading up to the election. The Republican convention, for example, is at the end of August. So we're slowly building our momentum so that by the end of August, we're going to be everywhere.
I got to tell you, I do not think that the mainstream media is going to support you on this, Dinesh.
Well, that's why we're doing it this way. Why Houston? Because Houston is friendly country for us. We feel that for people in Houston, this is an eye-opening film, and if people will like this film, and sure enough, we're doing really well in Houston. We had our opening was so strong, we were the #1 per-screen film in the United States.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the theater I was in last night, it was a 7:15 movie, and it was full. The theater was full, and when we got done, as people walked out, they were like, "Oh man, I was amazed at this," or "Wow, that was really interesting," or "Oh my goodness, we've got to make sure people go out and vote and know about this." I mean, it was really interesting because not only was the theater full, but the people were touched by the movie, so much so that they felt almost the need to say something to people next to them or walking out, which usually you just kind of walk out and mind your own business. But you really move people with your movie. One thing I think that's important is being that your feelings and all of the research you've done leads to the fact that President Obama had a few mentors. In addition to wanting to be a lot like his father, wanting to adopt his father's vision, his anti-colonialist vision, and those kind of ideologies. But he also had some mentors along the way. Can you touch on his mentors a little bit?
Yeah, these are the guys, I call them Obama's founding fathers, because he didn't have his real father for most of his life. He sought out other guys who were like his father. And this is a group of real revolutionaries. There was a communist in Hawaii named Frank Marshall Davis, and this guy was Obama's mentor for about 8 years before he went off to college. Then at Columbia University, he hooked up with a guy who was actually an official representative for a time for the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization. This is a Palestinian scholar, Edward Said, but that one magazine has called the Professor of Terror. Why? Because he's an advocate of violent Palestinian resistance against Israel. Then there's a Brazilian socialist that Obama hooked up with at Harvard, a fellow named Roberto Manga Vieira Unger. And then, of course, Bill Ayers, who was actually, with the Weather Underground, the terrorist group, and has in common with Osama bin Laden that they both tried to blow up the Pentagon. And then also we all know about Jeremiah Wright. So you put all these guys together and you realize, oh, my gosh, Obama has now swept these guys under the rug, but he has been hanging out with some pretty dangerous radicals. I mean, people actually involved in terrorism against the United States.
Now, and these aren't just passing relationships. These are long-term, long-standing. I mean, 8 years. 8 years with Frank Marshall Davis. I mean, that's not a short period of time to have worked with, commensurated with, listened to, been mentored by somebody. I mean, that's influence. You spend 8 years with somebody, even if you're only seeing them once a month or, talking to them once a month on the phone. That's a lot of influence, and a lot of it can be passed on through that relationship over those years. A lot of ideas, a lot of concepts could be passed through.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Ayers had a fundraiser for Obama in 1995 in his apartment. So that's the first time that we know that the two men got acquainted. And normally someone doesn't have a fundraiser for you unless they already know you. So dating back to 1995, that's a relationship that's well over a decade. And we know the Jeremiah Wright relationship lasted over 20 years, where the Obamas they were married in that church. They had their kids baptized. They gave their largest charitable donations to that church. So, yeah, we're not talking here about casual acquaintances. We're talking about deep relationships, often lasting a decade or more.
Now, have you looked at anything to the effect of when you looked through sort of the visions of these four founding fathers of Obama, you also look through the Obama senior's life and what had happened to him in his life and things that he had written about that he wanted to see done, right? The vision of these founding fathers plus his biological father. Have you looked at that compared to the things that Obama has passed and done while he's in office, that their vision has somehow come true through Barack Obama, the current president?
There's no question about it. There's a close match between the anti-colonial ideological agenda of Obama's own father and some of his founding fathers and the things that Obama is pursuing. Now, Obama, of course, is in the White House. He's limited by circumstances. He's got to deal with a Republican House, so he's not going to be able to get everything he wants. But he has been remarkably successful in a short time in fundamentally altering America's position in the world, shrinking American influence in the world, and increasing the power of the state, of government, over the private economy. And those are two of the core ideas of anti-colonialism. And further, as we suggest in the movie, that, look, the president is going to be totally himself if he gets a second term. He won't have to worry about re-election again. So if, in a sense, we've been seeing only half of the real Obama so far, the real Obama is going to come out in the second term.
Yeah, you saw that in his supposed to be off the microphone speech with the President Medvedev there, as he says, give me some room, and when I get reelected, we can, I'll have a lot more room to operate. So you definitely see the fact that's in his mind, that he'll have a lot more freedom, and he said it. You don't even have to guess. Now, one thing I thought was interesting was Obama Sr. Insisted, and this is a quote from him. Theoretically, there is nothing that can stop the government from taxing 100% of income so long as the people get benefit from the government commensurate with their income, which is taxed. Can you talk about that? I mean, that's written by his father.
Right. His father is basically saying that, look, people who earn income don't deserve it. It's not really theirs. And so the government should feel free to take it. Now, that may seem very outrageous, but let me relate it to something that President Obama said recently. President Obama said recently to a bunch of businessmen, hey, listen, guys, you haven't earned it. You think the money is yours. You think that you made it, but no. How did you used the public transportation. You went to public schools. You are relying on things that other people, in fact, society in general, has created for you. Government did for you to enable you to do what you did. So you can see the eerie similarity. Obama's saying, in a sense, what his father said. He's saying, listen, wealth is not yours. Yeah, you work hard, but everybody else works hard. It belongs to society, and therefore, if we have the power to take it, we have every right to do it.
Well, I got to tell you, the movie is extremely insightful. I enjoyed it very much. I'm going to recommend it to any American. Before you vote, if you're contemplating voting for or against Obama, you need to see the Obama 2016. And I want to thank you so much, Dinesh, for being on the George Jarkesy Show. And thank you for your wonderful service to our country. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right, great film, Obama 2016. You got to see it. This is the George Jarkesy Show. Do not touch that dial. It could cost you money.